A sharp click. A crisp sound. Heard by the ears looking this way. That is the sound that can cut through all logic. These people dared to ignore Xion's warning. They hid in the distance, secretly peering at him. It doesn't matter. Mom will take action. Xion's rules cannot be violated. This is the only way to show respect to him. Disobedient children will be punished. With a snip of the scissors, Mom cut off the connection to everything here, including them. Hiding behind the camera of the hidden door, it shattered in an instant, along with his body, as if being crushed into pieces by an invisible force. The girl observing from afar with a telescope. At the sound of the scissors, she felt a chill. Subconsciously looking down, only to find that his clothes were neatly split open on both sides, just as if they had been cut in half with scissors. A thin trail of blood extended from the abdomen all the way to the top of the head. It wasn't just her clothes that were cut open. In the sealed room, the deeds witnessed through the use of power were being reported to the higher-ups. I saw a single unit fighting a spiritual monster. But it's strange. Single unit doesn't seem like just one person. Around him, there also seems to be a twisted spirit. With a click, her voice abruptly stopped. On the other end of the channel, someone was asking softly, "Go on! What is twisted?" The quiet room. Only the repeated questioning from the other end of the channel. The girl sat quietly on the sofa, her head already tilted to one side. Sensing something amiss, the man in the red suit suddenly woke up. He tugged at the strings connecting the puppets with his fingers. A look of confusion mixed with a hint of bewilderment. He found the puppets left there. They were all unreachable. It was as if the connection between them had been completely severed. Ranchine, bewildered, calmly asked which one? Each one. The voice in the red suit sounded somewhat choked up. The big-headed boy seemed a bit puzzled after hearing it. Are you guessing whether it's because the distance is too far, so it's beyond the control range? The man in the red suit confidently replied no. A range of 30 kilometers has been tested by him several times. He didn't know if it was an illusion or not. This time when he opened his eyes in the puppet's body, he seemed to see a woman. She was smiling at him. Then don't wait any longer. Prepare to evacuate. Ranchine quietly looked towards Qingyang City, as if contemplating something. Big Head Boy was somewhat surprised. Boss, this level of data recording may not necessarily earn us money. Ranchine turned around and made a gesture signaling a retreat. The task of recording experimental data on spiritual pollution bombs has been declared a failure. This decision surprised Red Suit and Big Head Boy a bit. It seems that they did not expect the boss to give up a mission so easily. Ranchine, who sees through their thoughts, turned back with a smile and asked, "Do you know why I've been able to survive for so long?" The reason is that, even though I have power, I still keep the cautiousness of an ordinary person. When it's time to retreat, I never act out of greed. After saying that, he pressed the instrument. Under the wall in the south of the city, Xion was like a bystander. He watched as two spiritual monsters were tearing each other apart. He couldn't help but marvel at how powerful his sister was. The monster tainted by him. On the contrary, its fighting power is a bit stronger. Just at that moment, the unpolluted monster suddenly stopped moving, as if some elusive command had been transmitted from afar. The monster controlled by the sister bit at it, its unmoving body seemingly brewing an unimaginable force of terror. Not good. Xion realized it immediately. The psychic monster is about to unleash its final radiance. The psychic radiation is released. It's akin to a bomb. It affects not only the people below the wall, but also those within a radius of 10 kilometers. All people affected by this radiation will be in trouble. Xion stayed here. It was to solve this spiritual pollution bullet. He subconsciously called out for his sister. "Uh-huh. It's okay, brother." 17 comforted the nervous Xion. He immediately leaped from his shoulder and rushed straight at the monster. She stretches with all her might in the air, but her tiny body is only so big. the length of the stretch is limited as well. So she used power to disperse her body into many pieces. They scattered and floated in the air. The air was filled with the joyful laughter of her sister. "Brother, you look quickly. I have dispersed into many copies of myself." 17 stretches out his body, embraced towards the monster that was tainted by her, under the control of the younger sister, also tightly wrapping around the spirit monster that is about to explode. Exion just realized his sister is going to use her own body to wrap around the monster. Powerful mental radiation surged out in an instant, released in the embrace of his sister, but unable to spread freely around, all contained by his sister in her arms. Exion watched this scene. Suddenly, an unusual feeling of pain emerged in his heart. He knew this was a manifestation of his sister's power, but he didn't understand why. He really didn't want to see this scene. Ranqin has already started to retreat. He kept staring at the instrument in his hand, but there were no changes in the data observed. Gazing in the direction far away, he said meaningfully, "The water in Qingang City is very deep." However, the next second, he suddenly opened his eyes wide. He didn't know if it was an illusion. He vaguely felt it. He felt like he was being stared at by a woman. At the moment when the mental monster erupted, 17 stretched out its body to wrap around it. Like 10 kilograms of TNT explosives, psychic power was released in her arms. All the surging power that burst out was tightly held by the younger sister, preventing it from spreading to the surroundings. If an ordinary person were to be exposed to this twisted psychic power, they would definitely die instantly or go insane. Suddenly, there was a violent vibration coming from the southern wall position, with a large amount of dust rising up. Gecko turned back and froze in place. He nervously took out a detection device, revealing an incredulous expression in an instant. The power of the twisted mind is rapidly decreasing. Gecko immediately reported to Chui Tai. The mental radiation in the area of the southern wall of the second satellite town is disappearing and approaching zero. Please advise on whether to enter the scene. At that moment, similar reports were heard from all over Qingang City. Gecko received the command above. Approved to enter the scene for inspection. He rushed over quickly. Seeing that underneath the wall was already filled with countless corpses, Exion sat on a rock. The extremely horrifying giant pit at his feet was particularly eye-catching. Looking at Exion, who seemed to be in a bad mood with his head hanging down, Gecko cautiously approached him. Just then, he picked up a tree branch from the ground and lightly poked it. "Are you okay, buddy?" Lost in thought, Exion suddenly raised his head, startling Gecko. His body involuntarily shivered with fear. Seeing that the newcomer was Gecko, Exion realized that he was still on a mission. However, it should have already been resolved. Please support the team to enter. After Exion finished speaking, he lowered his head again. Unable to resist, Gecko asked him what he was up to. So it turned out that the headphones were broken. The detector was also dropped by him. He, the user of Money Lover, is worried that headquarters will ask him to compensate. Fortunately, Gecko advised him not to. He should honestly report that it was his own fault. Then, he shouldn't have to compensate. Exion felt a little relieved at this. Gecko, with a pensive look, glanced around. "Brother, how was this big pit created?" Exion turned around and said it was caused by that spiritual monster. It suddenly erupted, like a bomb. However, Gecko's eyes were still filled with fear. He asked Exion how he managed to unleash the power of the monster, concentrating solely in this small area. Watching 17 approach with a smiling face, seeking credit, Exion truthfully said that it was his younger sister. When the spiritual monster is about to explode, splitting apart their tiny body, wrap the monster in the middle. Just need to focus the power that explodes it out together. Wrap it up. It can be solved. Exion looked up at the Gecko, answering softly, "You can't do it?" Anticipating what Exion was about to say, The gecko extended his hand to stop him. Brother, I understand the rules. So it must be our fault, right? Make sure the large humanoid monster has been eliminated. The support team begins to enter the scene. Every time Xian sees the support team entering, he experiences a strange sense of security. He took out a satellite phone and called Bing Han, asking if the problems have been resolved now. At this point, Bing Han seemed much more relaxed than before. The 4 large special pollution areas that appeared in the second satellite town have all been well controlled. Xian subconsciously didn't want to see the corpses littering the ground. Even though she successfully saved more than half of the people, what about the other half who died? So is there any clue now? How did this chaos come about? Although there is a dedicated person investigating this matter, the report has not been submitted yet. From the intelligence that Bing Han currently has, this incident must be related to the technology church, the church, and the knights outside the city. In addition to the theft of paintings, they should have other objectives as well, and it is very likely that they have already completed them. For their own goals, they have caused the deaths of many people. How will headquarters deal with this matter? The follow-up measures for that knighthood order are under the responsibility of the City Defense Department. Bing Han also doesn't know what arrangements they will make. Even if the other party has left Satellite Town, there will still be professional personnel pursuing them. After all, someone has to take responsibility for those who lost their lives in this chaos. Xian listened intently and stared at the city outskirts. No matter who they are or where they escaped to, for the deaths of so many people, they will have to pay the price. Well said. But after finishing this work, you should go home early. His mother in front of him showed a delicate and charming smile. Your father is really angry now. Such a big fire. I think this time we need to consider holding a family meeting. A gecko leaning against a car, looking at Xian with a strange look. A conversation of thanks exchanged between Bing Han and the gecko. I don't know how long I waited. Finally, I saw him hang up the phone. Do you always talk like this every time? Xian listened but stared at him with some curiosity. Is there something wrong? Oh my god. Of course it's not right. Gecko looks like a seasoned person. Always so polite. When will she become one of us? You see, when I chat with Linda, it's more intimate. That's what it means to be one of us. Once this topic is brought up, he immerses himself in fantasies he has made up in his mind. Even a premonition about Chui Tai is aroused. Thinking that Chui Tai is going to become his own person soon. The more he talked, the more excited he got. Gue Gue respectfully leaned on Xian's shoulder. He wanted to tell Xian a secret piece of intelligence obtained from Chui Tai. The house that carried his father's anger was already worn and weary. Just as Mom said, maybe it's really necessary to consider having a family meeting. After the mission, Xian and Gecko returned to the security department and filled out the work report as usual. After this incident, Gecko became more cautious towards Xian. However, Xian could also understand. After all, many people must be curious about how a spider classic power deals with spiritual monsters. At this moment, 17 suddenly appeared by his side. Brother, when do you plan to come back home? That old monster is throwing a tantrum. I dare not go back now. Xian couldn't help but smile. I didn't expect my younger sister to be afraid sometimes. He asked 17 to wait for a moment. He then reached out and grabbed a handful of candy. Little sister was a big help this time. She deserves a reward. 17's eyes lit up when she saw her brother's pocket filled with candy. After finishing supper, Xian greeted Gecko. He was going home for a visit today, since he had promised his mom to hold a family meeting. Gecko suddenly became interested and wanted to go with Xian as well. He had been wanting to visit Xian's house. Xian looked at Gecko with pity. What's wrong with being alive? This statement immediately scared Gecko, causing him to break out in a cold sweat. Xian looked at his stiff expression and then gave an apologetic smile, signaling that it was just a joke. However, this time we will not invite him to our house first. Xian felt that this meeting was very important. Upon Gecko's notification, Xian boarded the vehicle below the security department. He asked the driver to take him home. 17 lay beside Xian, watching the places hidden in the darkness. Brother, someone is following us. Although I understand their curiosity and vigilance towards themselves, we have to go home for a family meeting soon. If we cross the line, it may anger our father, who is already in a bad mood. After giving it some thought, Xian still decided to give Jing Chen a call. Colonel Chen, things here in Satellite Town have been mostly taken care of. I plan to return home for a while. However, there are many people following me now. I don't like being watched like this. Jing Chen, lying on the operating table, is still so capable. Instantly understood the reason behind it. So promised her that this side would arrange things well for Xian. Not long after, those who were monitoring him turned and left one after another, disappearing into the darkness. Jing Chen called again. She informed Xian that she had ordered them all to withdraw. Xian heard her talking about intestines or something on the other end of the phone. Xian subconsciously asked her what she was doing. Jing Chen then said she was in the middle of surgery. He sustained some injuries when he was attacked by Ran Qin earlier. Just now, he finally had time to deal with it. During the operation, he was still able to make a call to himself. Xian couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. He hurriedly asked, "Is everything okay, Jing Chen?" "It's nothing." Jing Chen didn't seem to care at all. He just mentioned that a cut was made in his abdomen, injuring his internal organs. "It's nothing that can't be fixed with some stitches. She has already hypnotized herself with power. She won't feel any pain." Xian then stopped disturbing her and let her focus on the surgery. He thought about the leader performing the surgery. Should he buy some fruits to send over? The car quickly drove near the old building. Xian got off the car slowly. At the moment he got off, the driver received orders from above to stop monitoring the single unit. Jing Chen from the Special Operations team guaranteed it. However, the driver was puzzled. Wasn't the current threat level of single unit already at level A? After a brief silence on the earpiece, the driver was told the truth. Just now, there was a report that during single unit's mission to clear the spirit monsters, some people investigating him had already paid a price, including a senior investigator, an A-level elite agent, and even a power user. The causes of death are all unknown. For your safety considerations, all monitoring of single unit must be stopped immediately. The driver subconsciously looked back at the old building. Goosebumps covered his body all at once. He stepped on the gas pedal and accelerated away from this area. Xian walked in the silent corridor, feeling a different kind of oppression. 17, who followed behind, was singing a song cheerfully. "Sister, please don't sing anymore." Xian couldn't help but stop in their tracks. "Uh-huh. Brother, don't you like it?" "It's not a matter of liking or not liking. You're just seriously off-key." I arrived at 401. In this cold and empty old building. Only the lights at home were on. 17 was not singing at this time. Leaned on his brother's back. Xian knew that his little sister didn't want to go into the house at this time. This also indicated that the father must be very angry. He gently comforted his sister with a word. Quietly walked to the door of the room. Then slowly pushed open the door. Just as he entered the house, what came into view was a mess. Like it had been through a war. Seeing Xian arrive, the father's huge roar stimulated the nerves of everyone in the room. Trash. They're all trash. Trash. They're all trash. A group deserving to be used. Trash that deserves to be harmed and killed. The father, filled with anger, slammed heavily on the table. The whole old building seemed to tremble faintly along with it. The mother on the side was on the phone with the mysterious Miss Chen. "Tell her not to worry. It's just a few robbers coming into the city. The situation has been resolved." 17, who was crouched behind Xian, though afraid, still cautiously peeked out towards his father and let out a low growl. "You said? Are you useless? You ran outside all night, but you still let those people get away." Exion just looked silently at his father. Okay. I've been angry all day already. The child has already come back." The mom who hung up the phone walked over lightly. "Now everyone is here. Shouldn't we also have a family meeting now?" The anger on the father's face did not dissipate. Exion held his sister, sitting opposite his mother next to his father. Mother's words make sense. We really should have a good talk now. Regarding this incident, Exion didn't think he did anything wrong. Since he's receiving this salary, he should help people solve problems. Moreover, Jingchen helped him protect the people at the orphanage. So of course, he should also help protect the people in Satellite Town for Jingchen. Father listened to these words. His eyes were filled with anger, and it seemed like flames were about to erupt from them. What job? They are just using you. You have done so much for them, yet their first reaction is to be wary of you, to track you. So you should make them all die. Otherwise, everyone in this family will be killed by you. Everyone is dead. Who will pay the children's wages? An empty city. Will it be interesting? Mother's voice is still so gentle and sensible. To be rational. We did something that others couldn't do. People are afraid of power. Not everyone is as homebound as you. A more lively world is still better. After talking about father, mother's gaze fell on Exion. Of course, mom is a very rational person. Speaking frankly, you did show a bit of weakness. When those people escaped, you chose to save lives first. Mom can understand. But now, what about it? Father also stared tightly at Exion. If you don't want to be killed by others, then you have to strike first before they harm you. You need to make them understand. They shouldn't provoke you. Brother is right. 17 suddenly spoke up, making a fierce expression towards father. Dead girl. You don't understand anything at all. The sister's defiance made father angry again. It was done by the brother. That's right. Faced with the abnormally tall figure of the father, 17 was a little scared, but still muttered softly. As the father approached little by little, the huge shadow almost engulfed everyone. Don't scare your younger sister. Exion, who had been quiet all along, finally spoke. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became somewhat delicate. Mother tenderly touched 17. Your brother is certainly not wrong. He did the right thing. Now, what we need to discuss is what happens next. Those people have already done something bad. They snatched away that painting. Although others believe they did it for the painting, is it really that simple? If they were just after the painting, why did the reformed individuals come looking for you? And why was the bomb detonated specifically in the southern part of the city? Mom suddenly smiled, and outside the city seems to be very fun. We have never been out of the city. Hearing this, my sister's eyes suddenly lit up as well. You all make sense. Exion sitting on the sofa seemed lost in thought. A strange smile appeared on his face. Do you agree this time? Seeing Exion nod slightly, a hint of excitement and even anticipation appeared on father's angry face. Exion's voice seemed to echo throughout the entire old building. He said, I had already made up my mind to come find you before returning home this time. I just wanted to confirm whether you would support me or not. Mom is very satisfied with the result of this meeting. It's decided so happily. Let's go find them. Exion also smiled in agreement. He really enjoys communicating and achieving mutual results in this friendly and pleasant way. Jingchen, who had just undergone surgery, couldn't rest and went straight to Professor Bai's research institute. Based on the testimonies of the father-daughter pair Su, she had reason to be suspicious. Those power users outside the wall could be possible. They had long been searching for that painting in the city. Until Xiaosu left Main City, revealing that painting. They finally got the opportunity to take action. Actually, the situation is already very clear. Professor Bai gestured for Jing Chen to sit down. The one named Ran Qin should be a very powerful power user. This person is very bold and cautious. He also has a good understanding of the defense work in Satellite Town. From the extent of his use of power, Professor Bai judged that Ran Qin has at least reached the end of the first stage. The possibility of the second stage cannot be ruled out. Jing Chen frowned tightly after hearing this. If it's just a bandit, then it's okay. If it's the technology church, Professor Bai doesn't think so. It's not in the style of the technology church to only use a mental bomb. Of course, it's also possible that they were instructed by the technology church to observe the experiment data of the bomb. If that bomb really explodes, the consequences will definitely be severe. It's all thanks to single unit administration side. He even arranged for someone to monitor him. On Professor Bai's side, it is checked through dissecting sample tests, identifying the mental reconditioning responsible for the attack on Jing Chen and the others. It was from the same puppet classic power user. It can be seen that the members of the Knights have long been in contact with the single unit. Professor Bai took out a file and handed it to Jing Chen. This is the information they have gathered so far on the investigation of the explosion at the Red Moon Orphanage. 20 years ago, there were disagreements in the early days of the establishment of the Lunar Eclipse Research Institute. This led to a laboratory director in the Research Institute taking some important resources and experimental items with them when they left. For many years afterward, the Research Institute had been searching for him. Many people know about this incident. The event is codenamed Escape from the Laboratory. There is reason to suspect this is also one of the objectives of the Knights Templar, but there is too little information at hand to prove anything. Indeed, some things seem to have been deliberately covered up. They are currently just speculating. If the orphanage is really related to the escaped laboratory, then there should be at least one person who knows the truth about this now. Jing Chen suddenly picked up his head. The first person who came to mind was Xiaoluzhang. Professor Bai was extremely concerned about the orphanage. He specifically assigned the entire task to be handled by Jing Chen. No one else could put his mind at ease. Jing Chen understood Professor Bai's intention. She will visit the orphanage and have a talk with Xiaoluzhang. Red Moon is present. Little Lu, sitting in a wheelchair, quietly looks out the window, placing the rusty gun on her lap. To investigate the escaped laboratory incident, Jing Chen arrived at the new relocation site of the orphanage. Fortunately, they were moved here for protection initially, ensuring they were not affected during the citywide riot. She showed her identity to the elderly gatekeeper, who was reading the newspaper, indicating that she was here to see the former principal. However, the elderly gatekeeper, as he was, used the reason that class was not yet over to ask Jing Chen to wait for a while, until the bell for the end of class rang. Following the playful laughter of the children, I saw little Lu being surrounded and coming out in a wheelchair. Hello. My name is Jing Chen. I am Xian's colleague. Little Lu looked up at Jing Chen. A surprised expression appeared on her face. Are you the person who gave him so much money? Jing Chen just smiled lightly. He didn't expect that little Lu's focus would be here. The work he did deserves this level of compensation. Teacher Little Lu seemed a bit nervous. When asked about the reason for her visit this time, Jing Chen calmly said that he wanted to understand some past events. The two of them arrived at an office. Looking at the child's workbook, Jing Chen couldn't help but smile. He wants to become a scientist when he grows up. He wants to invent a chicken with 10 legs just so people can eat chicken legs every day. Although the writing is childish, you can tell that the children here are very determined. When you and Xian were growing up, you must have grown up in an orphanage, right? Faced with Jing Chen's question, little Lu nodded. He left when he was about 13 years old. But he often comes back to help me. This person is so silly. He can't bring himself to buy anything. But he always brings his salary to me. Without him, this orphanage would have closed long ago. We might have starved to death. Xian's character is still widely recognized as good. However, What she wants to know is about what happened at the orphanage back then. Little Lu seems to have been avoiding this question. She doesn't want to give a direct answer. Jingchen also stopped beating around the bush. Get straight to the point. What was Xian like at that time? And when the explosion happened back then, what exactly happened between you and Xian? Not finished yet. Little Lu suddenly pulled out a pistol from under the blanket covering his feet. I don't know what you want to ask. I know nothing about what happened back then. Little Lu aimed at his own chin. Tears welled up in his eyes. The current tranquility is what he deserves. You can't expect to deceive me. I will not allow you to harm him. See Little Lu being forced to die. Jingchen sighed. Although she could tell at a glance that the gun had not been maintained. It couldn't be opened. But today's goal has been achieved. Jingchen left her phone number. Her ultimate goal is to ensure Xian's safety. And Little Lu happened to inform Jingchen in this manner. Xian is a person worthy of her trust even at the cost of her life. Little Lu treasures this peaceful life. What Jingchen wants to do is exactly to protect this kind of life. As they are leaving, Jingchen reminds Little Lu to pay the water and electricity bills. She sees the notice posted downstairs. Out of respect for Xian, I can help cover up the issue of you hiding the firearms. But the water and electricity bills, as well as the rent, still need to be paid by yourselves. To avoid causing panic. The official statement to the public about the causes of this chaos. Someone violated rules by collecting polluted mushrooms in the wilderness and allowed a large number of toxic mushrooms to flow into the market, ultimately leading to a food poisoning incident. Now the administration has provided free centralized treatment for the poisoned public. Severe punishment and trial will be conducted for those involved in the incident. Can it still be like this? This operation surprised Xian. He asked Bing Han if there was any news about the power users who took away the stolen paintings and escaped to the outskirts of the city. Headquarters has dispatched a special task force for tracking. But the other party's anti-tracking measures are extremely professional. The City Defense Department has offered a high reward for the wanted Ranqing. Bing Han's initial estimate is that it should be over 3 million. 3 million. Xian was instantly shocked. His inner thoughts were unclear. Bing Han detailed the task allowance and remuneration to Xian. But before finishing, he was interrupted by Xian. He is now anxious about another matter. To avoid any omissions in the accounts, he feels it would be better to wait until later when there is some free time to carefully cross-check the calculations together. You just said it. It's not easy for the City Defense Department to track those people. But they have committed so many crimes in this city. They cannot be let off easily. So I want to submit an application to headquarters. Go on a trip. At this time, in the Qingyang City's Senior Administrative Hall, a meeting is being held to discuss the application that Xian just submitted. In this incident, Xian revealed many secrets that were previously unknown. Minister Shen suspects that Xian suddenly applying to leave the city at this time must have some issues, and even suspects that he is trying to escape.